Hello, I'm Gus Downing, publisher and editor of the D&D Daily, and this is the LP News Network. We're here today with Mark Stinde, Vice President Asset Protection for 7-Eleven, Art Lazo, Director of Asset Protection, Western U.S., Canada, SSC Operations and Investigations for 7-Eleven, and Jim Passarella, the Director of Asset Protection for 7-Eleven up here in the Northeast. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last 6 months, we've seen a significant increase in robberies across America. And as well, we've also seen violence that's been escalating too for some time now. And it's impacting the retail industry to the point that virtually every loss prevention executive in America is dealing with it almost on a weekly basis. It's become a major concern and topic that we report on at the Daily virtually every day. So the issue is, what are we doing as an industry? And how do we respond and make sure we're doing everything we can to provide a safe working and shopping environment? And with that, I'd like to welcome Art, and Jim. Thanks for being here, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Mark, your industry is regretfully one that is more prone to robberies than most other retailers. And obviously your team is more highly trained and educated on how to manage and respond to them. I mean, can you give us a feel for some of the programs you have and some of the safeguards you've taken?
Absolutely. So you know we're a 24/7 operation. So safety and security is really the cornerstone of our asset protection program. We have very defined robbery prevention procedures in our stores, and that goes from keeping cash levels low, making sure that the store is well lit, making sure all associates greet every customer that comes in, that there's good visibility from outside the store, to see what's going on in the parking lot as well.
From a standpoint of signage and stuff.
Yeah, so we're not blocking the windows and making sure there's good visibility, not only for our clerks and team to see outside, but for law enforcement or others to see inside the store to see what's going on. And so we teach and train that every year. We recertify our teams to make sure they understand all of those procedures. And after every robbery, we investigate what happened in the store. So whether it be a robbery, a flash mob, or some other violent incident, we investigate not just to collect the information, but to really try to understand what happened. Is there a trend that's changing? Are the events becoming more violent? And then the team works with field operations and others to really support any changes we need in the program. One of the things I'd like to talk about is we see law enforcement as our partners. We support law enforcement. They are out there every day, like a store detective might be in a store, in a department store. Law enforcement comes to our stores, and they are part of the family. And so one of the things we did this year is we reached out to the 1,800 police departments that service our stores with a letter from my office that really said, look, we're seeing an increase in violent crime, an increase in the robbery rate in many of our stores, and we'd like to partner with you, and we'd like to do a better job. And so any insight you can provide, and any help you can provide us, we're really open to. As a result of that, we've had hundreds of law enforcement agencies reach out to us, set up time, and currently we're in the process of going out and meeting with them and really trying to help us not only understand our issue, but really provide insight for us.
But what are you doing in those meetings? How do you really cement that relationship with that department in Kansas or Missouri? I mean, what's the value for the officer or that department?
So I think, and we've talked on one of your broadcasts in the past, so we put out a law enforcement at 7eleven.com, really an opportunity for law enforcement to reach out to us for information. Often they're investigating something that has nothing to do with 7-Eleven, but that person had recently shopped in our stores. So we may have video for them, we may have information from a credit card receipt or a debit card receipt that they're looking for. And so part of, it's really a give and take in terms of our support to them and really their support to us. But what we want to share with them, and sometimes some of the crime doesn't get reported by our stores. The call into our hotline, the franchisee decides they don't want to call it in because it was a nuisance crime or something like that. So helping educate them on what's going on in our stores really helps get to the core of the issue and really start to work on those things.
Now you also have the Slurpee campaign for the kids in the community as well, which kind of at times would bring in the officers because they know the program and they're kind of supporting that as well.
Yes.
So can you give me a little history on that?
Yes, so we call that program the Operation Chill program. Basically, we send out coupons, and the idea is that a law enforcement officer tickets a young person that's done something good and in the community, that they can give them a free Slurpee to go into 7-Eleven and redeem that.
Sure.
And it really engages our young customers with law enforcement, and they see that person in the big blue uniform and it concerns them. They don't really get, they're a little taken aback, but this gives the officer an opportunity to engage in a positive way and to really recognize good behavior in our community.
Yeah, so it's really worked rather well.
Yes, it's been, in fact, from a community perspective, it's one of the things we're perceived most highly in the community is this program and how they perceive 7-Eleven.
From time to time I see municipalities that'll propose legislation, or a bill that will require multiple people on, or more security from that midnight to 8 shift because of a violent death of some sort. But that seems to pop up throughout North America from time to time. I mean, what is your opinion there? What are your thoughts there?
So we absolutely, that's something that we deal with, and as everyone knows, the minimum wage issue is a big issue, not just for convenience stores, but for all retailers. Right. And so with labor being really the highest controllable expense for an operator, it's certainly challenging when in the overnight hour they need to put 2 clerks on staff. Certainly we'd love to do that in every store. And again, the one thing you have to consider is the franchisee is responsible for labor in the store, so
right, they're store. Sure.
They're really making that decision. But certainly where we have issues, we support that as at least one step that they can take to prevent bad things from happening in our stores. We do have municipalities where they are requiring that we have double coverage on the overnight hour, and we certainly work with those agencies to make sure that we're compliant.
Mm-hmm. You're covering a large geographical area with Canada and the Western U.S. I mean, are you seeing the same trends in Canada and out west that we're seeing here on the East Coast? And what are some of the things you're doing to help the stores and your franchise teams deal with it?
Sure. So in Canada, we haven't seen the increase that we are seeing in the U.S. It's stayed flat for the past few years. But out west, in markets such as Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Dallas, those areas have seen a similar increase to what we're seeing in the East, across the whole country, actually. Mm-hmm. A lot of what we do, so the investigations piece also falls under my responsibility. So we have a team that every robbery that occurs that night, somebody comes in the morning after and we'll pull down all that information. And they're building an alert to go out and really work with the law enforcement agencies that Mark spoke about, making sure that we're getting them all the information that they need, that we're connecting dots between jurisdictional areas and finding trends and dealing with that. So that's something that we do first thing every morning, every day, to try to make sure that we're getting the information out to the field.
Mm-hmm. And you're not seeing the same thing in Canada?
No.
Any opinions there? Any thoughts?
I don't have any theories as to why. I just think that within the United States and the major markets that we deal with, we've just seen an incredible increase there that's just outpaced everything else that I've seen. So Canada, while they still have issues, and we still have many stores that are our focus areas and focus stores that we deal with, just have not seen the uptick that we see in some of the other major metropolitan markets.
According to our data, and it's something that we're releasing tomorrow, and I'll share it with you now. 2016, we saw a 28% increase in robberies over 2015, according to publicly reported data. The most surprising thing was that the month of December stood out from any other December in history, with virtually a 40-50% increase over last year's December. So, as you know, we were reporting some rather dramatic increases in the last few months, but it ended up on an annualized basis being 28%. But the December was just an alarming number that we found, and it, as I indicated, is coming out tomorrow in the Daily. But Jim, I understand you're very involved with the various agencies and efforts from a collaborative standpoint. Can you talk to that and explain the value and impact they're having, and can you give us a feel for what you're seeing here in the Northeast?
Sure. So in addition to the NRF, RELA, the LRPC, I belong to a network of individuals that deal specifically with the convenience store world, directors and VPs. So it gives me an opportunity to benchmark much more closely, because they play in our space. So rather than waiting for survey to come out at the end of the year. I can get information at the speed of an email.
Right.
What are you doing to do with levels of violence? What policies do you have that are impacting the business? What are your customers telling you? So it's phenomenal that we have access to information that quickly. So it's having an impact on our business because we can benchmark almost
Right.
immediately.
Right.
So
Right.
we see a huge.
Well, it's good collaboration on your part too.
Absolutely, it's great.
Is there any message you want to send to the retail industry about these increased robberies that we're seeing, or anything that you'd like to share with the LP, the more entry level, younger LP executives?
We're currently, and we're not ready to speak about the program in its entirety, but we're really working right now. This is a societal issue. It's not a 7-Eleven issue. It's not a
Right.
retail issue, and so we're working with our partners in our store support center and the different functions. We're working up with our franchisees, really to try to figure out how can we get further upstream. And so, what does that mean? That means how can we get more engaged in our communities? How can we work with folks that even sometimes we may not agree with the opinions of some of their work, but certainly we want to work with them because they have an opinion and they're our partners in the community and they shop our stores. And so, I think that the reality is this is an issue that is going to continue to be a stressor for retailers, and we need to come up with solutions, and they've got to be innovative solutions to attack this problem.
Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to thank you for watching, and until next time, please let's keep them all safe out there.